The president's wrapping up his time here in Scotland, then heading to the neutral site of Helsinki for that meeting with President Putin. Today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he spoke to President Trump by phone to discuss some of the issues that will come up in the Putin meeting. The president has just said he is going into that session with low expectations. But while here, he played golf at one of his own courses with a wave to cameras and protesters.
President Trump's short game included a round with Scottish protesters who followed him on the links.
For as much as he's a very powerful man, he has a very easily bruised ego.
And staying out of the rough with Vladimir Putin. In a new interview with CBS News, the president said just meeting face-to-face is a good thing.
Having meetings with Russia, China, North Korea, I believe in it. Nothing bad's going to come out of it, and maybe some good will come out. But I go in with low expectations. I'm not going in with high expectations.
Monday's Helsinki summit comes just days after the special counsel investigation brought charges against 12 Russian intelligence officers accused of hacking the emails of the Clinton campaign and Democratic Party.
President Trump was asked if he would press Putin to send the indicted Russians to the U.S.
I hadn't thought of that, but certainly I'll be asking about it. But again, this was during the Obama administration.
After days of blunt talk aimed at European allies at NATO and in Great Britain, Russia experts say the president needs to demonstrate toughness on the cyber attack.
He needs to push hard on Putin to say this is totally, categorically unacceptable, and there are consequences for messing around with American elections.
Trump's stay in Scotland, the place where his mother was born, prompted thousands to demonstrate in Edinburgh Saturday.
I'm protesting against President Trump's presence in Scotland. We don't really want that kind of person here with those views.
There is a new development this morning. Authorities say they have arrested a 55-year-old man, a Greenpeace activist who made a spectacular flyover Friday night. He was steering a motorized glider with an anti-Trump message over the Turnberry Resort while the president was outside. So it is likely the president actually saw that protest before he headed inside the hotel. Willie?
All right, Kelly O'Donnell getting us started in Scotland this morning. Kelly, thank you as always.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.